Hello class, this is Professor Berry. How are you? I hope that you are nice and warm on this snow day that we had in Atlanta. Today is Wednesday, January the 17th, and of course you know we did not meet for class, and I hope that you are safe in this icy weather that we will have. So I wanted to make this video. This would be our lecture for today, Wednesday, and I'm glad that you're taking a look at it because this will kind of keep us up to date so that we don't fall behind. Now, if you would, this is what I need you to do. Make sure that you have gone to your website, atlm.edu. Make sure that you can log on to D2L. Then select our class, Human Communication. And I want you to click on that class. And I pray that you've been logging on. But if you haven't already, you will see that there are modules for each week. And we are in week 2 that started with January the 15th. And of course, we didn't meet on Monday. So I don't want us to get too far behind. You will see on Module 2, Week 2, that we have 2 things there. Your PowerPoint for Chapter 1 is listed, and even if you do not have the book, you are responsible for paying attention and also staying abreast with the PowerPoints that I have listed for you. So please go over the PowerPoint lesson. As well as there is an assignment that is still due Sunday, January the 21st, and that is by 11:59 p.m. Okay? And let's talk about that real quick. It is called the Communication Self-Assessment Assignment. And I apologize, I can't turn this thing around. But once you click on it, there is a PDF version. Let's see if I can turn it around so you can see what I'm looking at. Okay. I hope you can see that. I'm going to turn it back around to me. And you will go through that communication style self-assessment. Fill it out. You do not need to send it to me. So you can take a piece of paper and write down or check what sounds like you. So you will check the statements that seem, sound, or feel like you. Leave all the other ones blank. So if number 1 is you, on evenings when I don't have anything to do, I like to watch television. If that's you, you would put an A. If that's not you, you just leave it alone. Then you'll go through 1 through, I think it's 48. Then you will total up your responses. You'll see how many A's you have, how many B's you have, and then how many C's you have, okay? And then you will see if you are a visual communicator, an auditory communicator, or a kinesthetic communicator, okay? So I don't need that assessment, but what I do need is for you, after you've done it, is to tell me how you feel about it, all right? And so what you will do in 1 paragraph is to tell me if you were surprised by this assessment or if you feel that this is accurate. Also, tell us why you think you communicate that way. Why do you think you are a visual learner or a hands-on communicator, or a auditory communicator? You like to hear things, all right? Please watch your grammar. Make sure you do not have run-on sentences. Make sure that you've checked your spelling. You spell check. This is college, and I will take off for incorrect words. Make sure you are capitalizing what needs to be capitalized. We're in college, so let's make sure that we turn in college work. All right? And that communication self-assessment is due Sunday, January the 21st by 11:59. All right. Now, if you would, I want to see if I can finish up the rest of our lecture on Chapter 1. And I want you to go back to the PowerPoint that is on D2L for Chapter 1 for Week 2. And you remember that some of the things that we talked about in class were the communication principles. Okay? Communication principles. Remember that communication begins with self. Remember, how we look at ourselves also talks about how we communicate with others. Communication involves others. Remember, we depend on others to send and receive messages. Also, we talked about communication is complicated. Sometimes we have to communicate the same message different ways or over a period of time, but it may not always be a simple message like we think it should be, right? All right. And also remember that we said just because we have a lot of communication, an increased quantity of communication, it doesn't always increase the quality of the communication. So just because we talk a lot, or you may be, beating the same thing, it doesn't mean that we're having a quality conversation with that person. All right. So let's move on a little bit. What is communication? Well, communication is inevitable. That means that we know that it's going to happen. We cannot not communicate. We communicate non-verbally. We communicate through our words, through our behaviors. And so it just always has to happen. There is no situation since even we've been born on this planet that we have not been communicating. Communication is irreversible, meaning that once something is said, we can never, ever pull it back. You can say, I'm sorry, 1,000,000 times, or you can attempt to take something back, but you cannot reverse words. Once they're out, once they've been said, especially verbally, once the action's been done, it's already done. Communication also is unrepeatable. And I know you're saying, well, you can repeat something, you can repeat a phrase, but you can't repeat the same situation. So let's say, for example, we just celebrated Dr. King Day on Monday. And let's say his I Have a Dream speech. Thousands and thousands of people have repeated or recited, should I say, the I Have a Dream speech. Or even Dr. King could have done it again, right? However, no one, or even Dr. King himself, could never repeat that one particular day that speech was born, per se. Okay, so that's what we mean by it's unrepeatable. You can say a particular word over and over again, but that first context that it was given in can never be repeated. Okay? All right, and so just remember that in terms of communication, I want you to remember the different types of communication. And if you scroll down with me on that PowerPoint, I want you to know what intrapersonal communication is. What's that? That is when we communicate with ourselves. So I want to ask you a question. What are the messages that you send yourself? What do you say to yourself when you look in the mirror? Or even if we say, oh, I need to do something with my hair. Do you talk down to yourself when you make a mistake? That's what we mean by intrapersonal communication. I want you to think about the messages that you send yourself. That's intra. Interpersonal communication is communication with at least two people. So this is what we're going to talk about. Interpersonal communication is when we talk about relationships, parent and child, or parent and children. You are having a conversation with a coworker, or you're having a conversation with your neighbor next door. That's interpersonal communication. Okay? And then the next type of communication we have is public communication. That's kind of like what we do, a teacher speaking to the students. That's public speaking, kind of like a person speaking to the community. That would be public communication. As well as anything. Let me go to mass communication as well. That is with a medium. So you have TV, you may have radio, and now look at us. We have internet, YouTube, things like that, where social media, where you have a person sharing information, but it's over some type of mediated platform. Okay. I'm using my PowerPoint here. And so I want you to remember those different types of communication and making sure that you remember them. One thing I want you to remember as we pause is I want you to identify an experience in which communication between you and another person was not effective. Was not effective. I want you to think about that, because we're going to talk about that on Monday when we begin. And sometimes we may have to identify what we did wrong. Maybe we didn't communicate as clearly as we could, and maybe that other person did not communicate as clearly. Here's another situation I want you to think about. I want you to think about a situation or experience in which communication between you and another person was not ethical. Ethical. What do we mean by ethical? Maybe it wasn't polite. Maybe we said some words that we were not supposed to. Think about the situations that we're dealing with now with the president. Some of the words that he used to describe African nations were not ethical. Okay. But I want you to think about those two situations, and we will pick back up on Monday with that exercise. But I want you to make sure that you finish the rest of the PowerPoint or the reading of chapter 1, and I will hopefully see you, no more snow, on Monday. Make sure you work on that communication self-assessment. Have a good one. Any questions, make sure you email me. Have a good one. Take care.